psychedelics and the different hemispheres getting activated. Maybe there's some kind of language there, you know.
Well, there's definitely like somebody can get off like an aura, or as in like an atmosphere, or like they kind of give off a vibe of like don't talk to me, or do talk to me, or I'm open, or I'm closed to whatever conversation. Right? There's a psychology behind that too.
Absolutely.
There's so much to talk about.
I fixed everything. I'm telling you, with these updates, it screws everything up with Streamlabs and everything like that. It basically reset to like default, and so everything that I kind of changed earlier went back. So yeah, it's all fixed now. We're all good. But yeah, no. So I agree with you on that. I think there's a lot of things to be said by these types of mind altering things to really tap into what it means to have a human consciousness. DMT I think is one of the most interesting molecules out there for what it does, and even though I would probably never do it to myself because I shouldn't say that, because DMT only lasts about, if you take it with a beta blocker, how long does it last? Maybe 20 minutes, hour?
Orally, or are you smoking it?
We'll go with orally, because I don't smoke.
It's going to last a while. So if you like take ayahuasca, which is oral DMT, it's going to last a while. If you smoke DMT though, which people do, like DMT crystals, you'll blast off. First of all, it'll be super intense. You'll blast off, and it'll be like 5 minutes will go by. You'll be probably kind of high for 30 minutes, but you'll go into another realm. It's hard to explain.
Yeah,
where
the
it feels
breakthrough,
like eternity.
A breakthrough, right?
You got hit by truck-kun and you got isekai'd.
Now,
yeah,
just a whole nother world.
When you have those breakthroughs, this, by the way, we're going to have this whole discussion again, so don't give too much away. But when you have a kind of a DMT breakthrough and stuff like that, why do you think there's so much similarity between what people experience, like with the mechanical elves, and do you think it's because we all have similar biological chemical pathways and the brain's the same kind of state? Is it a cultural thing? What is it that makes it such that people have very similar experiences, what they think is actually what they're talking to or what they're experiencing? Like you said, this whole different realm. Because I've had lucid experiences, and I've been in a state of consciousness where you're in a different realm. You feel like you're there. I mean, legit tactile sensations, wind blowing in your face, the whole 9 yards. So it's very, very real. So why do you think that is for something like DMT?
I don't know. I you know what? I think of psychedelics and dream worlds and that kind of thing was similar. Like the pre-birth experience, there's people that remember before they were born. Often people with brain injuries have like memory of the before. So I kind of think it's all the same thing. I mean, I don't know. I think of it as the same thing, but maybe that's where consciousness goes when it's not like within our bodies, kind of thing.
Oh, that's an outstanding question on philosophy of mind, real quick. Is that where does the consciousness go when we sleep, or something like that,
or when we die?
Or we die, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a problem that you run into when you're when you take kind of skepticism too far, because I think a lot of the words that you're using to kind of describe this situation and the sensation trigger a lot of people to start immediately thinking of woo. Like they start thinking like they'll start going into like very non-scientific, very much just like based on not a whole lot of anything, not very much research that goes into it. And I find that that's the opposite of skepticism. That's you're immediately blowing something off because you don't like the words that are getting used, instead of like, okay, well, what do you mean when you say this? Because we might be thinking of different things.
Is you there? Did we lose her?
I think we lost Cheshire.
No,
the audio.
What?
No, I can hear her just fine. Can you hear her?
Hello.
I can hear you.
I know.
Can you hear us, Dr. Cross?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. So you want to just like paraphrase what you're saying, Chester, see if she can hear you now? And I am changing the title of this video.
I think not only atheists get triggered. I think when you take skepticism too far, you start looking you get triggered, or you immediately reject something based on language instead of based on like what the person is actually trying to have a conversation with you about.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot. You know where that happens a lot? In the cannabis cures cancer quotation.
Oh.
Yeah, so I actually I started my lab, the pot lab, as like a project to work on specific cannabinoids. But I was actually a skeptic about cannabis oil even helping cancer. I thought it was just helping people eat because I'm big on nutrition, and how that remedies the body, like food, thy medicine, old school traditional healing. But I didn't really believe that, and I was very skeptical of it. But we still made cannabis oil, and we tried it out, and it actually did put people that were young into remission. And I can't explain that. There's someone who was pregnant that we treated with it, and they have a baby now, and they don't have cancer. I don't know. But the concentrated, oils and eating them orally and like, those specific approaches can do that. So I've felt like kind of dumb being a skeptic at times, because I was like, oh, I'm just going to do this because, people are requesting it and they want to do it. And a lot of people either went into remission or their lives were extended significantly. Um, so skepticism can get in your way if you give into it and say, I'm not going to do that because I don't believe that,
When you start rejecting something without trying it or looking at things from different angles, because that seems to be like the too much of a good thing is a bad thing. So if you have too much skepticism, you end up running into problems where you're not willing to actually investigate anything anymore.
Yeah, and this is where I differentiate skepticism from denialism. Skepticism, again, to me, is the belief that knowledge isn't acquirable, right? Isn't obtainable. But that's just fine. If people want to use it as to mean ordinary doubt, I know what they mean. But when they use it as ordinary doubt, they really mean denialism, right? They're just saying, hey, look, I'm going to deny anything that comes my way because I just don't believe any of this, or I believe it's all BS. But when I looked into the whole cannabis things and the claims, the best I can come up with is indeterminacy. The studies that I read, and again, I'm no expert on this, clearly, and not even remotely so, but there is obviously a conclusion, things, and summations that you can read. There seemed to be some indication that cannabinoids could have an effect on tumors, but it's still a huge thing that needs research, and I think it should be funded. I think that there might be something there, but it's still indeterminate. Would you agree?
I actually put some of that information is in my thesis.
Oh,
I'm one of the people that
she's smart.
Yeah.
Her thesis.
I did that in 2013, darling.
Fund. All right. # fund the weed thesis.
Yes.
Right.
Weed
So
thesis.
I was
like
looking at breast cancer, and I tried some cannabinoids on these models I'd made of tumors. So they were cellular models, because I don't like to work with animals for research. I'm into like the vegan research. But so I work with cell culture, and one of the big research aspects of cell culture is growing organs or organoids in petri dishes, and assessing tumors and things like that in a test tube, basically. And we did a lot of assays with CBD and THCA, and we found calcium differences, which calcium basically runs the whole body. It's like very important. And we saw differences, and we saw tumor shrink, and we saw like cells that would normally like be metastatic and move around the body. They weren't able to walk around, so to speak, anymore, and cause harm to other places in the body. So we saw a lot of good data there. And there are a lot of studies, but they're hindered by like all this tech talk. If you saw the publication, you would know, because it's like blah, 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 acronym, differentiates acronym breast cancer and lactation model. Like, what?
What do you think about okay, so when it comes to like a tumor,
jargon's bogging it down.
When it comes to like a tumor, though, let's say that a cannabinoid just shrinks the tumor, even though it's not killing the cancer. It's like either reducing the water in the tumor, or it's just decreasing the size of it. Because I've seen studies that do that, but it doesn't necessarily say that the tumor is actually being damaged in any real capacity. Now, it might be able to be shrunk to show you can, from what I understand, excise it with better margins, but
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you're just like helping. It doesn't mean that you're getting cured of the tumor, but in that case,
no, but it's not getting bigger.
Right. So that would be kind of helpful for that kind of case, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And you know what happens when you don't have calcium in a cell? So what happens when you give cannabis to some tumor cells? there's two things that could happen. They get too much calcium, which makes them just pop, basically, just pop. Like a balloon. And then the second thing is they'll shrivel down because they can no longer sustain themselves, and you blocked all the calcium from them. So those are the two events that can occur, and either way is not good. Calcium's super important as like a signaling molecule to your cells. So too much will give them they'll proliferate. Too little, they won't proliferate, right? In some cases it's the opposite. But basically, you have a lot of genes that'll suppress tumors, and those are activated by cannabinoids. I think that was in my cannabis intro video.
And that's
where try to touch on it.
That's what they're trying to really form out the link to is if the cannabinoids are actually causing some kind of genetic factor that's causing a transcription of something that's going to actually attack the tumor and reduce the tumor.
Or actually, it would be activating a tumor suppressing gene.
Or suppressing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So tumor suppressant. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's really cool how that works and how much calcium is important. I mean, calcium in women or female bodies are kind of interesting for that reason, because our blood calcium, when we get pregnant and start to lactate, goes from 2 millimolar to 200 millimolar, for example.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And so all these changes happen in female bodies when they're pregnant, and it's really interesting how plastic things are. So, cannabinoids maybe aren't going in there and kicking everyone's butt and killing the tumor, but they're definitely slowing it down, giving time for chemo to work, giving you the munchies so you eat well on chemo, which is really important. It's like treating HIV with cannabinoids. The wasting is a lot of times what kills people.
So what do you think is the medical pushback on that? Because in California, they're introducing a new bill to basically not just legalize pot everywhere, but actually expunge people with criminal records on drugs. And it's not just pot. There's other things they're legalizing as well.
Yeah, we're legalizing all the plant medicines except peyote, because peyote's endangered.
The whole war on drugs with with Nancy Reagan didn't work. It was an abysmal failure. I think everybody kind of agrees with that. But why do you think there's been so much pushback not to allow research in this particular area? And I don't know how we got in this particular subject, because we're going to do this on a Caffeine Corner. So if we have to repeat this all again, that's fine. But we're going to get more detail maybe next time. But this is great.
Yeah,
I love how impromptu things. So,
and that's where I do research, and why I don't have a ton of investors beating down my door, and why I'm not a multimillionaire, because I work at the easiest, cheapest way to remedy a lot of things is with raw cannabis, which does not have THC in it. When cannabis grows, it keeps the THC as a different molecule called THCA, and that's what I work on. Or in hemp plants, it'd be CBDA. That A means it's a different molecule with this little group on it. And when you heat it up, that little group goes away and you have THC or a CBD. Now, THCA and CBDA existing in this plant means that all the laws were dumb. They wrote laws about things using old technology that told them that there was THC in marijuana plants. But there actually is very little, if none. And you can check with cannabis testing labs. They'll give you a result that says potential THC, but it says on their Delta 9 THCA, because most good testing labs use HPLC now. If they use GC, they're going to give you a THC result because they heated it up. And gas chromatography, you heat things up to, see how much is there. So this idea, in truth, has actually got me a lot of flack from the cannabis industry, because this tells people just grow your own plant and make a salad. You'll feel better. Eat it, raw cannabis. You're not going to get high. You're not going to feel different. You're going to feel kind of giddy and happy. And that's not a bad thing. And that's why I do this research. I turned to THCA after realizing that in some cultures, kids are given raw cannabis tinctures, in places like the countryside of Jamaica, for ADHD type behaviors. And I brought that back with me and I started using it myself because I can't get high and use like an electron microscope. It's just impossible. But I have autism.
Oh,
and
what fun that would be.
Oh man, the colors, the lasers. But I needed something for that. So I tried it myself and used to make alcohol tinctures of it. And then I started giving it to my friends at Hopkins. I'm not going to mention any names. And people are like, this is great for writing papers. This is great. This makes me feel good. I have so much energy. And this is at a level of 5 milligrams per milliliter, which is very little.
People are going to start replacing their coffee.
And people are going to stop buying weed at the dispensary if they knew this, you know, and people aren't going to be afraid to grow a plant and like eat a salad of cannabis or things like that. And it kind of takes all that monetization away.
Okay, so you think there's money reasons.
A couple of leaves in your Caesar salad, guys.
Hey, look, I like, Chesh knows I like my salad. She has actually seen some of the salads I produce.
I love salad.
And I'm a big fan of romaine lettuce, and I put kale in there. I bought some collard greens the other day. I got carrots,
arugula.
I got mushrooms. I got
spinach.
I haven't really had any spinach, but I should put that in there because spinach is really good. I got what was it? Bean? What do they call them? I forget what they're called. Those type of they're basically pre-sprouts. They're sprout beans, right? Bean sprouts.
Steve,
yeah,
we need to start having like a warning that goes on all of these streams where we hang out because warning if you have the munchies.
Right. Always turns to food. No, I love my salads. You know, I'll put some, you know, boiled eggs in there, kind of thing, or.
Right.
But
I
yeah,
mean, unless you
stuff.
heat it up like I did one time. I was making cannabis greens and I burnt them, and it did change the THCA to THC. And yeah, my partner wasn't happy that I served him that. I was like, no, yeah. So that's like what they call activating it sometimes, which I call it degrading it, because you're going to get a psychedelic experience if you heat it up. But if you don't, you know, that kind of brings up that guy that told you, you know, his dog ate the weed and got high. It's like, actually, they didn't probably. So THCA just doesn't bind to the right receptors in the right way because of that group hanging off of it, that A group, we'll just call it. And it's interesting. I love it, though. I love that it's helpful to people because, you know, you can grow a little hemp plant in your house under your, you know, sink or something. No one would ever know, and just pick leaves off or
you're allowed to nowadays, though, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
In most places, I mean, you know,
I'm in Canada.
It's still not legal for you up there, is it? No, is it?
It wouldn't be illegal anywhere.
Yeah.
Technically, it's under 0.3% THC, and in America or the United States, stateside, we've legalized hemp, so up to 0.3% THC. They didn't say anything about THCA, and it's a different molecule.
Ooh, getting legal, sticky, legal territory.
But it's slightly chemically different then.
It is. And I go to NIH meetings and I'm doing the same research people are doing that are funded, but I'm not funded because there'll be little like loopholes just to make me unqualified for certain grants. And that sucks.
I think, here's what I think. I think we should do an experiment, Chesh. I think that, in fact, my daughter just asked me today if I'm going to be in LA anytime soon. She has a friend in LA, and I need to go to LA probably this year. And I think we should do a live experiment where I will try Dr. Cross's tincture kind of thing, and just give a play-by-play of how it makes me feel and changes. And
that would be so fun.
Do a chronological
Sounds like you just want to try it.
I do. No,
you don't need an excuse.
That'd be awesome.
You could just do that.
She's not that far from my area, I don't think.
Well, there you go then.
I'm pretty close to all.
Yeah, y'all pretty close.
Steve's just making excuses.
Well, I mean, like I said, I tried a cookie the other day, and it was 10 milligram. Okay. And yeah, I noticed it had an effect, but it just wasn't a feeling that I enjoy. It doesn't give me that feeling of, there's no euphoria. It doesn't give me any kind of relaxation. It just gives me that marginally, barely high kind of thing. And it's nothing that I like. It doesn't work for me very well as far as what I enjoy. And again, maybe this is me, right? Some people like to get high and they love that feeling. But I would love to be able to have something that just relaxes me. One, that makes me sleep well. And two, where I can have open creative thought when I write something. It just like let it all spew out and then kind of edit it out later.
Yeah, I feel like THCA makes me very focused, and then CBDA is more good for my PMS, PMDD kind of situation. That's why I laughed
Yeah.
when Cheshire said that time of the month. I'm like, oh, we like, yeah, we need
That's
to
her
do
show.
that.
Yeah, she knows all about that. Yeah.
We'll have to do an episode with Dr. Cross where everybody who's on the episode just gets high and we all just zone and just
That would be
talk.
so awesome. I'd watch that.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, y'all getting high on, yeah. I think you can on YouTube, can't you?
Yeah, it's only hard drugs. You can't like shoot up or snort coke, I think.
Like, they're not going to stop me. I can make weed tea, and they're not going to stop me from drinking my tea.
Well, my drug of choice is caffeine. I'm not giving that up. But
I love caffeine. Oh,
I don't know how
can
I
I
survive
answer
without
someone's question in the chat?
By all
I
means.
No, ignore the chat. They're full of garbage.
good.
I'm kidding. No.
Me
I'm
channel as Sue channel.
Jamie was asking about Hopkins DMT research. I'm not sure about the DMT research. Roland Griffiths was a co-mentor of mine, and he did magic mushrooms research, and he's kind of like the guy that's also trained a lot of people how to be a psychedelic counselor. And I got to take that kind of training with him. I know they have done a lot of magic mushroom stuff. I'm not sure if they have like a new faculty at Bayview. That's Johns Hopkins Bayview. It's not the medical school technically or the hospital. There's like 50 campuses for Hopkins. But I wouldn't doubt that they've gone that way. Yeah.
Well, I think they should legalize that stuff and use it from research. DMT, psychostimulants, even LSD back in the day. I mean, way before our time, there was a dentist. Remember Leary and the LSD experiments. I think a lot of that has value to it.
Yeah, and Rosemary. Don't forget Rosemary Leary. Shout out to her.
But that was like way before my time. That was back in the 50s and 50s, 60s, and 70s. My parents grew up all that psychedelic stuff. They weren't into that, but they definitely were in the hippies generation. They lived through that.
Oh, yeah. My parents, too.
Oh, God. The 70s motif.
Say something along the lines of, can you name a bigger waste of money than the war on drugs? And I was just like, ooh, probably not without some serious number crunching.
It's definitely up there. Look, it was an abysmal failure. I mean, again, I'm never going to think that we should legalize, like methamphetamines. Those people are like way out there. But for things like, psychedelics and pot, and I don't even give a shit about coke any longer. It's like, it's not worth. It's so much money we spent to imprison these people for what? They're not dangerous to society. I don't give a shit if they stay in their houses, do their thing. They don't drive under the influence. I don't give a shit. I'm a libertarian when it comes to that.
Exactly. I mean, I grew up in the Valley, so we had in the 90s, we had a lot of meth. Meth was everywhere. It took away some of my bestest friends, smart kids that could have done something with their life. I mean, we're talking magnet school kids, and I mean, they got, because it's so much like Adderall or Ritalin. I mean, that's what they modeled Adderall or Ritalin after. So many of these smart, gifted people of color got hooked on meth, and it was really sad.
And
we
it's
also
sad. It's
had
probably intentional too.
Something else.
I mean, I hate. I'm not a conspiracy type person, but I think there is something to be said. There's something conspiratorial and true about. I think they probably overprescribed a lot of this stuff, and it was to get people hooked in some capacity, especially with the opioid crisis.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was just like open drug dealing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's incredible.
Of course, it was.
Am I surprised having read a lot of FBI and CIA documents? No. And that's the funny thing. A lot of stuff is in plain view because it has to be published at some point when it's unclassified. And, like the Panama Papers, we have the torture report. We had so many things that people just kind of are like, oh, that's terrible in the moment, and never read. I like to read things.
Well, there's no question. Look, every country has done some fucked up shit. We are no exception by any stretch of imagination.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, it's hard when you just it's the thing with the United States is it's stolen land, and then people were whole people were stolen and brought here, and it's like very complicated. And then you have European immigration too. It's just a big mess.
Yeah, America's roots don't really. Yeah,
religion and
yeah. I'm never. Look, I'm a patriot. I spent 6 years in the military. I love this country, but I can't deny we've had a shitty history. There's no question about that.
I'm a military brat, so yeah, I was the one that they were like, do not go to the military. You have.
Oh, I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. You fucking kidding me? The military's hard as shit. You think
I can't wake up before noon, so
yeah.
no.
Look, you think a 9-to-5 job or even like even school is rough. You put that and combine with the fact that you fail, you could literally be arrested, right? And so I mean, talk about pressures. Just, obviously you know firsthand the pressures of academics. You've lived it, you've experienced it, you've mastered it, and you've excelled in it. But imagine having that and then added to it, oh well, if you don't do this assignment, you're going to go to prison. It sucks. Yeah. It's kind of, it's really not that bad, but it's really pretty shitty.
Steve is gatekeeping.
Don't join the military. And yeah, like you said, you're forced to get up. It's no more, hey, you want to sleep in today? Nope.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. My dad, they're all Air Force in my family, and that's considered like luxury, and still not.
My dad was Air Force, yeah.
I was
Somebody
even invited.
In the chat.
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
Somebody in the chat said, "Hey guys, I want to join this chat, but then I got high."
I love that song, by the way. Chess, are you surprised that I know that song?
No, why would I be surprised?
I actually like that song.
I'm not an easy person to surprise.
Yeah,
or I am an easy.
I kind of grew up with that kind of
song. I'm a hard person to surprise. I said that right.
But then I got high. Let's see what else is going on in the live chat there. Chemo says Rockdale College in Toronto was that pronouncing it right? Rockdale?
Yeah.
Rockdale in Toronto was a pretty great hippie dope fiend phenomenon during the 60s. Come the 70s, smart with crazy, and the whole thing went to shit. Yeah, look, I saw people get hooked on drugs too, as Dr. Cross has. I've had friends that really went to hell because of like hardcore meth, and I don't think something like that should ever be like legal because it's so damaging in many different ways.
My older sister was in the 80s, so it was a crack thing. She watched her friends, get hooked on crack, and then my generation, it was meth, and it was like constantly something.
And now, I mean, in each generation, they progressively make this stuff worse. I mean, and now they've got fentanyl, for God's sake. It's like, okay, who wants to mess with fentanyl? What is it, like 2 micrograms of the shit can mess you up?
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of fentanyl to mess you up.
Oh, and then we had the bath salts.
Yeah,
remember when people were eating people's faces?
Florida man.
What was that?
Yeah. Or do you remember what's called crocodile?
No, I missed that one.
Crocodile was it was basically like bath salts, but it would produce these like open sore, massive flesh wounds, like almost like necrotitis fasciitis. It looked like. Yeah, go look up crocodile with a K. Nasty shit. It was like it was cut with battery acid, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you want to shit up with, right?
Oh my
Why
God.
would you want to cut anything with battery
Because
acid?
these are drug dealers. Anything that's cheap, they don't care. Ugh. They're not really considering the end user, although I never understood the business model. If you kill your end user, there goes your profits, but they don't care if they cut it with that stuff.
Well, Brandon, I'm not going to blow right past spice because we got to talk about spice. That was a real big problem in Skid Row. I had an office there I could never get to because they had like ambulances lined up constantly for spice. That was a more recent one. That stuff is horrible because actually that's like a research. It's a research chemical, and it's synthetic cannabinoids, and they permanently bind to your cannabinoid receptors, and that's why people fall out on that. So yeah, it's totally synthetic. They're used to study cannabis receptors like in cell culture and stuff, but people are selling it on parsley as weed, and it's spice, and it's cheap. So people buy it. So one of the things I do as an activist is I give out roaches because I smoke joints. It's really personal. And
This is a
I
safe
would give
zone.
all my roaches to people in Skid Row, like, and weed, that any weed I could get donated, I would get like my friends together and we'd roll joints and hand them out in Skid Row because of the spice problem. It was so bad here in LA. Just
How would that
horrible.
work with the
Like,
pandemic nowadays, though? Wouldn't it be really? Because back,
yeah,
it would be a
yeah,
little bit
no,
different.
not.
So,
We wouldn't be handing out roaches,
Right.
but it was just the fact that we had like a huge ashtray of roaches, and they were just on the other side of the
yeah,
fence
give it
from
away,
the
right?
street.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, like put them in a jar and like leave it outside, and like people would be like, "Are these weed roaches?" And we're like, "Yeah, you can take them." And they'd like take the whole jar,
Freebies.
or like, yeah, or my friends who own dispensaries, they'd have old pre-rolled joints that they would no longer sell because they were just so old, maybe 4 or 5 months old. I would get bags of these things.
So just to let you know, a crocodile was is an opioid derivative of codeine, like heroin, but it was cut with solvents such as gasoline, paint thinner, lighter fluid, iodine, hydrochloric acid, which is battery acid, red phosphorus from matches. Yeah. That's some nasty. It was nasty
Does it get you
shit.
high? Why would you do that?
I don't know. It's codeine, but if you, so this.
The codeine.
So
I didn't hear the codeine.
there.
I heard sulfur and
There you go.
battery
I put it in the live chat for you, called crocodile. So here it is, a new thing for Dr. Cross for her to look into and get freaked out on, because there was some. By the way, not for the faint of heart, but you're a doctor, so you've seen all kinds of crazy shit. But it was called Russian
I'm
magic.
not a physician because I hate gross stuff, but
I've seen these photos. They're not that bad. I mean, necrotritis fasciitis looks worse. But yeah,
I've cut off some rat heads, but let's
just
be real.
look at the faces of these people that have taken this stuff. Holy crap! The sores on their bodies, their open wounds. I'm not going to show any of this because it's not for the faint of heart. And there's there's a legit trigger warning, by the way.
I've seen a few open wounds.
Yeah. See, in the last video, I did trigger warning for atheists, but I'm using trigger as legit as a PTSD shit like that. This is some nasty shit. If you ever look into this crocodile, not for the faint of heart. Oh my God! These images are just beyond disturbing. So you've been warned, okay? But I mean, I could look at this stuff and not get too freaked out.
Good job, Steve.
Oh man, to be that hardcore into drugs, to be able to put something that contains hydrochloric acid in your body and red phosphorus and lighter fluid, good grief, that must be one hell of a high.
That's like all like you don't even want to touch that kind of stuff really much, let alone put it inside of you.
I guess it was cheap, and that's why they did it. It was just like a cheap high because money, but holy crap.
Oof. Yeah, I'm allergic to codeine, so.
Let me know if you look into it. I'm not, and actually, I've had been prescribed years ago. It's 5 milligram codeine with 500 milligram acetaminophen from the VA, and it was one of those prescribed as needed. Well, I only needed it very very infrequently, so it lasted me a long time. So there's just zero chance of ever getting hooked on it because I would never want to be. But it did actually work. When at times where I was in a lot of pain, it did alleviate that. And so I can see why people do get hooked on it because they go, oh, look, it alleviates pain. I'll take another one and take another one. And then get a little more used to it and take another one. I was not going to fall into that trap.
Right.
But I'm not allergic to codeine.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard. And pain patients, I mean, they really get the short end of the stick because of all this nonsense, with these drug companies, like, with the fentanyl opioid crisis going on. We now have pain patients, and they're generally of marginalized populations who can't get pain meds because of the fear that they're going to be an addict. And so they're turning to cannabis. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing states go green. And it's the cheapest medicine for so many things. And you can grow it yourself. I mean,
well, I think you hit the nail on the head, though. Since you can grow it yourself, I think a lot of pharmaceutical companies don't like that. They want you to pay for things.
I mean, even dispensaries don't like it. There's a lot of people that have been rude to me because they don't like the idea that I'm like, oh, hey, you should grow a plant and make a salad, because their dispensary isn't going to be able to sell you, CBD products, because that's what they're giving people as an alternative. But
Right.
there's like 90 cannabinoids. We could make an industry out of each cannabinoid because it has, something. And then there's all the terpenes. There's a terpene for pain, there's a terpene for moods, and these terpenes are in other plants. So now we can combine cannabis. There's so many things that could be made.
This is a problem where you have this is a problem with a little bit with capitalism trying to stunt capitalism. That's what this is.
Right, exactly.
You could just, instead of having an industry trying to keep you, trying to gatekeep you out for their own profits, you should be able to start your own business doing this exact thing.
Yeah.
It should, realistically, if capitalism was functioning the way it was supposed to be functioning,
yeah, well, I don't think even pure capitalism is even possible in the real world. But yeah,
I'm not talking about pure. I just mean working the way it's supposed to. Right now, it's not even functioning at all.
No, and that's why when I think that people put profits ahead of other things else, I think they're going in the wrong direction. I think that's looking very short term. But yeah, I have no problem with people making their own shit. I mean, look, if people want to have their own gardens and grow tomatoes and vegetables, I bought a nice banana squash yesterday that I had for lunch today. I could grow those things easy. I've grown squash and zucchinis and things like that. They're not that difficult to grow, and I actually enjoy it.
They're not.
Yeah. So does that mean if we all grow our own stuff that these supermarkets will be going, oh, you can't, we don't want you to do that because then you won't buy our product? No, none of them say that. People have gardens. What's the difference?
Actually, what they do is they have genetically altered it so that
I was going to say, the seeds grow
from the store. It won't grow as well as it does from the store. I'm actually testing it out. I've got some Roma tomatoes behind me.
Do you know that? Look, people don't realize how self-sustaining food crops really are with the seeds. I mean, tomato. You can grow. You can grow strawberries from strawberries, right? What's that, Doc?
I have a few mutant GMO pepper plants, and it's really funny because the pepper grew out of the stem.
Oh yeah, no. But I'm saying people don't realize how easy it is to.
Bizarre.
Well, you got to have a little bit of a green thumb, but people don't realize how self-sustaining it is with a garden, just by the seeds. That's the whole great thing about having nutrients in soil and the sun. You get food galore if you know how to do it properly.
Manage it, yeah. I have quite the plan ready for summer this year.
Which is survive off the land. That'd be fun.
Gardening.
We've talked about it here. There's plenty of room in the backyard, and my landlord here is go for it. I don't know. Maybe one of these days I would like to, because I did like gardening, but it is a challenge because, again, between the bugs and proper pest control, natural pest control, the quality of the soil, the amount of sunlight it gets, the amount of water it gets.
You just got to do it right. You got to know your plants.
Well, yeah, no, I'm aware of that. But like I said, there are certain things easier to grow than others. Like if you want to grow the zucchini, and anybody can grow zucchini. That's so easy.
It's true. Yeah. It's great in an urban environment if you don't have a yard. I love these grow bags I have because I can I have a whole salad bag, I call it, and they're really cheap. You can store them easily. They break down, obviously. They're just bags, and they're reusable. They have ones for potatoes, too. So I've been able to grow potatoes just on cement.
That'd be awesome. I like my red
All
russets.
I have is a patio.
I like brown potatoes, but I would
also
grow
growing.
russet.
It's in a jar over there. You can see my jars.
Yeah. What is it? What are you growing?
Oh, I'll grab. Well, that's one of them's the tomatoes. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, tomatoes generally pretty easy. But yeah, I think it's fascinating how life will grow out of something like a seed given the right conditions. You're talking about spirituality and stuff like that. I don't think there's any kind of major God connection or supernatural connection, but I do find life itself to be inexplicable in some ways, right? Oh, that is pretty cool.
There's 3 of them in there.
Yeah, I think the most spiritual biology class I've ever taken was embryology, in the same vein of what you're saying.
Embryology?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine that. I mean, to how it also goes in the whole when does life begin kind of thing. Is it
Yeah,
conception?
right.
Is it the zygote? Is it a where it's fascinating because you start off with two gametic things, you stick them together. Now you've got a live cell that can actually develop into a human. That's pretty impressive from any position of metaphysics, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, in embryology, you're like studying cell masses up to a certain point, and then all of a sudden something looks like what it's going to be. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. And like watching how the cells like pattern form. Some cells even die in development. So like your hands are webbed when you're an embryo, and then
Because
the webbing
apoptosis.
actually, they die. Yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it dies.
Yeah.
It's cool, right?
Without apoptosis, you would have webbed fingers. But
Exactly.
but isn't that weird that is, I hate when they throw words out like programmed cell death. People are like, oh, there's an intentionality. You have to have a programmer. But it is programmed cell death. The cell has designed itself for some reason over evolutionary things to have this apoptosis, to have this webbing, so you can have distinct digits. And I think that's pretty impressive, actually, myself. But
Yeah.
you didn't know I read any about this stuff, did you? Did you? No, you didn't.
Oh no, I did.
I like
Because
biology.
I listen to different shows, for entertainment purposes only.
Of course, that's all. Hey, look, this is what we're all here for. It's all,
So I have to give it like this is not
entertainment and
medical
education.
advice disclaimer.
No, but it's that informative. I mean, people don't have to give like any kind of. We give unsolicited lay people advice, right? We're not professionals in anything, but
Is it really
decent advice.
unsolicited if somebody clicks on our video?
Yeah, whatever.
I don't think that counts as unsolicited.
It's solicited.
Well, I guess because a couple of people do pay us for it, so they are.
And they
patrons
choose to come here.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so you guys solicit advice from us. We give it, then you ignore it, and then bitch at us later. It's cool. We understand.
As you should.
Yes.
As you should.
We get it. Yeah. So this is fascinating, by the way. So let me ask you this: what do you think of CRISPR-Cas9? And two, do you think it could be used to extend things like telomeres and the Hayflick limit, so a biological somatic cell can, split more than 40 or 50 times and basically, in theory, have some kind of indefinite life expectancy?
What was the first part of that question? I'm sorry.
I do it backwards, so it makes sense. Do you think we could use CRISPR-Cas9 editing to change the amount of telomerase produced, or how so we could change the telomeres such that they don't end up reaching their Hayflick limit and dying out, so we can have the bodies that basically don't ever die for the most part. I mean, it just basically keeps building.
Steve wants to turn us into lobsters.
Oh, transhumanism.
Transhumanism. This is a big thing in modern cutting edge stuff.
And I like to buddy up with the biohackers, the people that are like making insulin in their garage and stuff, because like that's like
companies hate
people.
That shit.
They hate us.
They hate it. Oh, you can't do that. Well, why not? If it's safe and but they're like, oh no, we want you to pay $600 for a vial. Okay, no, not.
Right.
If I was a diabetic and I could make insulin in my garage, you think I'm going to pay for the shit? Fuck no.
Right, and there's a lot of diabetic
some people don't
PhDs in chemistry.
Right.
Like,
so as long as you know what you're doing, and,
I don't have an issue with that.
I have no issue. There's a lot of PhDs without jobs. There's a lot of PhDs in chemistry with diabetes who need to do it themselves, and they're going to make such a big batch. I mean, mostly that's what it is. They hate biohacking. Mm-hmm. But transhumanism is interesting to me. I don't like the notion of lay people playing with CRISPR because I could just see an accident happening and tumors forming more than likely on something.
Also, you don't want to get in the germline like that one doctor in China did. I mean, he was looking at the death penalty for that. That's how bad they view something like that.
Yeah, there's just so much that could go wrong in the bad hands, but CRISPR to like transform the body, it's interesting. The beer virus or the pandy thing. I don't want to say, I don't know if you want that word on your thing. The mRNA vaccines, though, were being made already to fight MS. Mm-hmm. and like cancer and stuff like that. So that's kind of like where we're at currently as far as, you know, giving things like this to the public.
Right.
So those studies are going well though, and I think it's going to be great for like degenerative diseases. I don't know. I mean, we're kind of in the apex of, are we going to do transhumanism now? Because they're starting to, you know, say that things are okay, like, you know, gene editing in utero, you know, that's the new argument. And if that starts, I mean, people are going to be born like to order, which is weird.
Well, yeah, because you get into the argument of you know, almost like, you know, genetically.
Even with my disabilities, I don't want to be different,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't consider them disabilities. But I think the biggest concern is that when you start editing genes because of gene linkage, you have we don't know, because of the complexity, what some of the ramifications are. Because I don't think you can even predict it. It's so complicated that we're nowhere near the computational power to predict. With
I mean, when I was in grad school, we just started looking at epigenetics, which is genetic factors outside of the nucleus of the cell, outside of DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the telomere lady won the Nobel Prize that year, a year that I was there, and I got to have, like, you know, the whole experience of a Nobel Prize party. That is so formal.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So cool.
I am fascinated by methylation.
Parties, like, we had about a month of parties, so I can't say one party was more formal.
When early on in your career, though, and by the way, Chess, I'm sorry if I'm dominating. I just find this great subject, so jump in any time. But early on in your career, you know, you're
oh, okay. So I'm just gonna jump in right now then.
You know,
well, I'm going to jump in right now just to say that I have freaked the lady that won the Nobel Prize for the telomerase research.
Telomerase.
I've danced with her.
That'd be awesome. Yes.
So I love her. She's so sweet. Anyway, fun fact.
But yeah, like when I took biology in college, you know, we obviously discussed DNA and all this other stuff, but we never really got into any of the epigenetics type stuff. So the idea of a methylation and acylation, even though it's already existed, wasn't as prevalent that I've seen in the literature now. They just re-looking at it because of the effect it has on biology. Because I find that subject to be fascinating, epigenetics.
Yeah, the bumblebees, right? So bumblebees, due to epigenetic changes, are either a queen bee or a worker bee. Mm-hmm. You know, most of the interest stem from that. So, like, how does that work? And, you know, in the old days, they'd say it was magic, probably.
Well, yeah, because Lamarck's system didn't work, and so the phenotypical things shouldn't carry over. But we found things like phenotypical plasticity and these facts that these epigenetics do actually carry over for some generations.
Right.
You know, they probably eventually go away. But,
and then you further complicate it with plants having jumping genes.
Yes.
Isn't that fun?
That was Barb. What was her name? Who came up with Barbara?
Terrible with names.
I do too. But the lady that she was a scientist, and they didn't take her jumping genes theory very seriously until they realized she was right.
Yeah, because it was a stretch.
Now I hate this. I have to look it up. Who came up with that? I think it was Barbara McClintock or something. Barbara McClintock. Yeah, that was her name. I did remember. See. About transposons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Transposons. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I love this subject, by the way. This is fun for me. Caffeinated as shit to get to talk to an expert on this stuff. Just sorry, go ahead, though. Anything you want to ask? Pick her brain. Well, she wants to join you on... She wants you to join her on her channel on at that time of the month or something like that. So maybe you guys can set that up.
No, I love... I just... You said telomerase, and I thought of... I've thought of, oh God, I can't even think of like my own faculty's names. Carol Greider, Dr. Carol Greider is amazing. I just want to say that. So she taught me about telomerase. So I learned it directly from the source. And she was actually a grad student during that work. So she won a Nobel Prize for her graduate work, which is kind of amazing.
Crazy. Where did you go from there?
Super cool. She's just like a nice person, and she's cool. Like, she's not uptight. Like, some people are really uptight at Hopkins, but she's really nice. Fun. She likes to dance. She's like super cool.
I would be interested in seeing you actually, or start looking into and crunching some numbers and what it would take to actually get what you were talking about with putting different genes of HTC together and selling it as like salad based, or selling it
yummy.
as like in, because I imagine you would want to do like at least a restaurant to get people interested in the idea and start like mixing it into like Caesar salads or mixing it into whatever, right?
HTC.
Yeah, the entrepreneurship of it, I think, would be an interesting number crunch.
What is
I
HTC?
bet you could do it.
THC. I think she means THC.
Oh no, I work with THCA. We have like we study our tinctures, but we actually sell them to make money to do our research.
Right.
But yeah, people throw. I mean, I take it just by mouth because it's minty. It tastes fine. It's not anything gross tasting or anything. But I also smoke because sometimes you have to complement things. So I always say, like, heavy smokers, when they take THCA, they don't really feel anything. But people that don't smoke, because you're getting THCA with your THC probably when you smoke a joint, in the resin and stuff like that, basically. Right. So you're probably getting some THCA, but people that don't smoke have like, the CBD experience where you have something, it's not psychoactive, but you just feel good, and it's partially an anti-inflammatory. We know that it's actually a better anti-inflammatory than THC for some reason. And that might have to do with trip channels and calcium movement.
I'm going to put so people can see on the outside, I'm going to show right now. Basically, we were talking about the telomerase. I tried to look into the sheltering complex and understanding the telomerase complex before. Couldn't do it. Way beyond my complicated as shit. But basically, people that wanted to know, the telomerase is an enzyme that extends the telomeric repeats on the end of a chromosome, so you don't get fusions of it. TTH, GGG. So that's a telomeric repeat, and so this complex.
It's Tatabox. It's called a Tatabox.
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 So
I love that.
this complex will go by and produce these telomerases, telomeric repeats, and we've actually had. Matter of fact, this is fascinating for people out there. If you go look at human chromosome number 2, that actually was a fusion of pan-troglodyte chromosome 11 and 12 because the telomeres were degraded, and you can actually see the telomeric repeats in there. And so when people are like, oh, well, how do we know evolution, it's true, blah, 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 and we're related to chimps and all this other stuff, go look at human chromosome number 2. It's clear evidence of that from 2 chromosomes from pan-troglodytes, chimps that were fused many, many millions of years ago. I think it was 3 to 6 million years ago, something like that. But anyways, yeah, that's a hard subject. It's fascinating, though. I don't understand it.
I'm just curious as to how valuable it would be for because I'm not really totally against gene editing. I'm a little bit more interested in like the tech side of things and going cyborg direction. And I'm happy. I'm totally happy with like a happy marriage between the two of like, hey, maybe you're also like you've got a little bit of gene editing, but you've also got robot eyeballs.
Well, yeah. How much would you replace it yourself then?
Well, you would probably have to do that.
As much as I damn well wanted to. Who are you to judge me, Mr. Judgy McJudgy?
No, I'm saying how much are you willing to? I mean, for example, like if you have better eyes that like
all of it. Listen, if I have the option and it's a whole positive option, yeah, absolutely, I'll totally put my brain in a fully cyborg body.
I don't know how many organs.
Sure.
We have artificial organs, but maybe there's certain organs that just maybe don't even have an artificial component to it or analog. Maybe it has to be biological.
That's possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think a lot of people want to lengthen those telomeres, but I think if we did and we lived to be 200, we need robot parts eventually.
Yeah. Yes.
And things were fail,
right? All rotting,
kind
of. I don't know. As a biochemist, I'm like, stuff rots eventually.
Yeah. No, look, that's why I said almost indefinitely, right? I mean, if you could span another 50 years out of it, I think that's a major accomplishment. Even 20 years is a major accomplishment. Right. But I think that your organs will fail.
I am not opposed whatsoever to any of these things. If this is an option for me, I will take that option.
All right, well,
I won't even look back.
Okay, so we already have the ability to have an artificial heart, right? So you can replace that. I don't know if they have artificial livers yet, but I think they're working on that, like a filter system. But you'd have to find things for your kidneys. You'd have to find you don't need your spleen, so we can get rid of that.
Well, they already do pancreatic transplants. They do them here at the City of Hope.
But are they artificial pancreases?
No,
that's
they're
what I'm
they're
saying.
transplants.
Yeah, the transplants. What I'm talking
They're
about.
cellular transplants, I guess. So
If-
they like grow them. They grow them. I mean,
They grow. Yeah.
growing
Yeah.
culture,
Yeah.
yeah.
Look, I think that's the way to go. They're going to grow things from cells
Yeah.
and just basically grow the body
3D
part.
cell culture. I
Amazing.
mean, it's fun too. I'm gonna admit, it's really fun to grow organs.
I do think it's mysterious how cells do that. Now I understand science a little bit, so I don't think it's like crazy, design shit. But to distract from the fact that cells are able to differentiate in such a degree where you can form an organ from just a small group of cells,
And how they
Yeah,
move
no,
around
that-
is creepy, kind of, right? They like
Yes.
move around and sort themselves. Like, excuse me, I go here, you go over
they
there.
just seem to
The
to know.
3D printing of organs after you make a cast of somebody else's organ is so cool to me. I'm like, give me more of that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
That
you can
is
replace your
weird.
own organs theoretically. I mean, we could reach a period of time. You could just, hey, you want a new heart? Make yourself a new heart, print it up, stick it in. You know?
Yeah, and then you just add cool robot bits to make it even better.
You just want a robot voice.
Cyber's all about enhancement. So, like, if you have eyes that can't see color, and we can give you new eyes, or you see you have
Infrared.
eyes that can only see a certain distance, and I can give you robot eyes that allow you to see further. I'm gonna take that. Gimme.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a combination, like, using like nanotechnology, like for hearts, like I could see
nanotech.
like instead of using, those things, what is it called? A pacemaker, like those becoming really
Yep.
tiny, like nanobots that control your heart, I could see stuff for like, neurological things. Definitely like spines. There's a whole area of like making chips for spines to like help the nerves work again. And it's really interesting.
Yeah,
I could
really
see
to replace
something
a few
along the
things, for
lines
sure.
of you've got a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So you've been genetically altered so that way you're not able to get certain genetic diseases.
Mhm.
So you can't get this disease. It is impossible. It was a genetic disease and it's been wiped out due to gene alteration. Then you've got cybergenetics where I've been in an accident and I'm a paraplegic, but now my robot legs are way better than any legs you'd be able to produce otherwise.
Yeah.
We'll get those. We'll get that technology.
And then you add in
one day.
nanobots, and you're like, guess what?
Mhm.
I'm pretty well never get sick because the nanobots are to me everything I could possibly ever need.
I think
Well, yeah, we have them already clearing arteries with like little tiny robots. They just like little
they get their
like
energy off of
bulldozers.
fat.
in 200
Aggies
years from now, who
too.
knows? Yeah, I mean, think about that. I agree. I mean, you could actually have like an entire system of nanobots acting as leukocytes, white blood cells, to do, get rid of, shit that comes in your bloodstream. Oh, you got a virus? Oh, these things are going to knock this. You don't have to worry about getting antiviral. These things will rip it apart,
Yep.
Mhm.
Little machines.
Hell yeah.
So Jamie Russell mentioned something about Brent Weinstein on telomeres and lab mice, which, from what I understand, there's some controversy there, only because look, when you have these telomeres, there's always a balance between a healthy reproduction of a cell that shortens the telomere, and then the possibility of cancer occurring. And I don't think from what I understand, his research.
That's what the nanobots are for.
But yeah, well, Jamie's a younger creationist, so he's going to look for any evidence that points to like, oh, human chromosome 2 isn't actually a fusion. Well, yeah, it clearly is a fusion. It's a Robinsonian translocation. But
It's okay. We got nanobots to fight the cancer with tiny little packs of radiation.
pew 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 pew.
Hell yeah. Hell yes.
Do you remember?
Give me more.
Back in my day, we had these.
artificial teeth because there's no point in having real teeth anymore.
Remember the movie? Was it Fantastic Voyage? And they shrink down, and they go into the patient's bloodstream, and like, I'm being attacked by the white blood cells. Pachoo, pachoo. I'm really caffeinated. Yeah. Well,
I want all of these things. All of these things. We live in the future. Give me more. Absolutely.
I was promised flying cars by now, and hovering skateboards. We didn't get any of that. We just now again landed on
hovering
Mars. We still haven't
skateboards.
put a person there yet.
Yeah, that's you need to get your generation under control.
I
Steve, that's your
agree,
fault.
man. We were promised so much, man.
Yeah, but then you didn't do it.
I know. Well, people suck. Everybody fights against progress, man. I mean, they're so worried about other shit, they don't fund the sciences as much as they should. And then you got younger creationists out there, misleading people. And then you got flat earthers out there misleading people.
So here's the thing with here's the thing with stuff like flat Earth and stuff with young Earth creationism. God does not matter to what we are able to produce when it comes to either genetics or cybernetics, especially cybernetics. Then on top of that, flat Earth has absolutely nothing to do with what we can do or not do with nanobots. Like whether we can create like teeny tiny cybernetics has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. Either we can or we can't.
Well, I would argue that physics wouldn't work if the Earth was flat, so we probably
absolutely.
wouldn't have
I just mean like they
That
don't have
minor
anything to say
detail.
because obviously physics don't
minor.
work.
tiny atomic detail.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
don't sweat the small shit, man. That's just details.
There I go.
The question is does
angering
physics
people,
right?
I think
You just
physics
pissed off the entire flat
working.
Earth community. You don't know what the hell you just started.
Ah, no.
Well, you had a nice YouTube career while it lasted for 5 minutes because they're going to be all after you now. I think they're used to it.
DMs are gonna blow up.
I was telling the flat earthers, you're wrong. No. But what do you here, how about this? What do you tell younger creationists who think evolution's wrong?
Are you asking me?
Yes. Yeah, because I already know Chester's
What was the question?
What do you tell younger creationists who think evolution's wrong because they have no idea about it? They get it all wrong. And even the experts, Jamie had mentioned Dr. Ben Carson, who is a legit neurosurgeon. How do you recognize?
Surgeon.
Yeah, well, how do you recognize?
Surgeon.
He's a surgeon, right? He's a neurosurgeon, isn't he? Or is a neurologist, one or the other.
I'm not trying to detract from it. I'm actually being just real snarky.
And
medical
it's fine.
joke.
Snarky's good.
He's a surgeon.
No. But how do you
mechanic.
how do they reconcile that?
Yeah, it's a brain mechanic. It's fine.
To me, it's weird that they have to learn this stuff. It works because without works,
this is so personal.
Just we want
Ben
personal.
Carson is someone where as a person of color who went to Hopkins, Ben Carson would host these dinners that we had to go to.
Oh God, I would go crazy.
His Jesus house, and they weren't even black Jesuses. I grew up. My mom had a black Jesus poster, right? Because my mom's
black
like,
Jesus. That's.
I grew up with black Jesus.
You grew up with
Okay,
black
just
Jesus.
putting it
Okay.
out there. I'm from LA. You know how it is.
Which is actually closer to what Jesus would have been, but whatever.
Right.
He's at least dark skin, sure.
I'm talking in the 1960s, yeah. Anyways, my mom's white, but she's like, Jesus obviously is from Africa. Anyways, moving right on.
Sure.
I forgot what I was talking about.
Oh,
Ben
Carson's
Carson's house is full of Jesus. And it's the craziest thing because it's like your first week at the grad school. I'm the only black person in my class. And so I have to go with the other students that are, one in each different program, right? We're all meeting each other for the first time. And a lot of them are from the South. So a lot of black students go to HBCUs and stuff are very successful. And so most of my black peers were from the South. So they were used to seeing a lot of Jesus like this. I've never seen so much Jesus in my life. And it was bizarre because he is a brain surgeon, and you're like, do you think that God is working through you? And yeah, that's the general belief that everything is manifested from God because God is the root of everything, and He works through things. So COVID-19, God's working.
But he's
through
denying billions of
COVID-19.
years of evolutionary facts and evidence. It's not even a matter of science. It's nothing. There's no controversy to be had there. It's again like flat Earth. Younger creationism is just wrong
for
on
medical
every level.
school, you don't have to take a whole lot of genetics and biochemistry and molecular biology. They take. That's not you have a whole year of medications to memorize, sir.
But it's incongruent to me. And I talk to a lot of physicists.
You don't need to know the function. You want to know functions?
When I talk to like an expert in astrophysics, that's a younger creationist. It's or any kind of physicist. I want to bang my head against the wall because they legit know the science, but then they have this weird cognitive dissonance where they say, well, I'll use the science to get my education. I'll use the science to write my papers.
Oh yeah,
but
mathematics can be the language of God too.
but then they'll turn around and say, but all this is wrong because reasons, which they don't give.
Oh,
I mean,
They're important reasons. Too important for you to know.
I had Dr. Humphreys correspond with me, who actually in one of his I hate to call it a paper because it was with the Journal of Creation, but he got math error wrong. I mean, he got math wrong, and I'm sorry, as I pointed out last video, math is not subjective. It's not a matter of your math, my math, our math, their math. It's math. He got a math error wrong. Dr. Lachelle pointed out to him. I confirmed it with Landon and other people that I know that I trust, even though it was a super duper hard math error to spot. We all were like, this is a math error, but he still hasn't capitulated to it yet. It's a math error. It's not like your beliefs about God or anything. It's like you think 2 + 2 is 5, you got it wrong. It's a math error. But that's how much they're refusing to accept reality. It's weird to me.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to say maybe it's a wave particle, like light. It's both a wave and a
So
particle.
the Earth is both billions of years old and 6,000 at the same time. There you go. Ooh,
Yeah,
your
I
doggo's
don't
not
get the
happy.
flat Earth thing. I don't know how it became popular.
You don't want to know. We do know. It actually started off as basically I hate to say, well, it was okay. A long time ago, a group wanted to come up with the most dumbest thing in the world as an example of what you could try to practice arguing against, and the Flat Earth Society came out of that, and it was legit, so dumb that they wanted to see if people would actually, or how they would argue against it, and I don't think they realized how seriously people would take it, because there's dishonest pieces of shit out there that that don't know the science, that wanted to convince other people of it, and then you have the people that were easily manipulated, and then you have the people that are just grifting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have no other talents, and
If you have no talent, grift, I guess. Is that how you do it?
I feel like most people,
Burn.
I don't think I think that people look outward a lot. I guess that's why I'm really into psychedelics, and that, the dream space, as we call it. I think that's like an inside space.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's an inner consciousness place. Because I think a lot of people look outwards to explain things that they could look into themselves to explain. You know what I'm saying?
I love that inner reflection shit. When I was able to self-induce a lucid state about four, maybe 5 times most, but the second time I did it, I was sitting in a very comfy chair, and I was going to practice, getting a lucid state. And it was like you see in a movie where how you see a small little thing in the middle of your eye, and all of a sudden it just comes up to bigger and bigger and bigger until you inflates until you see the whole scene, and like a tunnel. That's exactly what it was. And boom, I was there, and it was this whole different planet that I was on, and I was like, this is freaking cool. I was lucid as shit, and I'm like, I don't know where the hell I'm at, but this is obviously a lucid state. But it doesn't last very long. I can't keep it very long because I get so excited, and then you get your adrenaline going, and then it kicks you out. But so I have to figure out how to maintain a lucid state for longer. But yeah, you can. When they were talking about transcendental meditation and getting into altered states, I fully believe that because I've had it happen multiple times. I've experienced it.
Also, sensory deprivation is very
yes.
good for that. I love floating. It's so much fun. The pandemic, just haven't been floating, haven't been able to go.
I've tried it with my Epsom salts and stuff like that. And I can reach a good state, but it doesn't really get me to that state. I had to put earplugs in, and I put a thing over my eyes, so I have some kind of sensory deprivation. But I think that stuff's amazing.
Yeah, I got really into it because at Hopkins they had all the old. They were actually cleaning out all the old sensory deprivation tanks from what's his name that did that there. And so it's cool to see these really old steampunk style sensory deprivation tanks they used to use.
We have a friend who actually owns a company that does that in Texas. His name's Team Skeptic.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he actually has.
I have a friend who has a float spa in San Diego.
We were supposed to go. We were supposed to meet up with them in Texas, but we didn't get a chance to. But yeah, I would love to try one of those out and get my experience of it. But
yeah, they're really
spa sounds cool as hell.
Yeah, it's all about the float spa. It is a spa too. It's like a whole room. Like you have your whole room and your own like gigantic sensory deprivation tank. And because I'm their friend, they do submicron filtration, so their water's always sanitized. And
Can I read this super chat?
Oh, by all means.
go ahead.
Yeah, Team Skeptic has told us the whole
Stefan.
process of sanitizing that stuff.
Yeah.
Stefan says for 5, if you want to talk about creationism, call Dr. Bill Lucas. He disproved all of modern science theories and replaced them with true theories.
Let's call him up.
That's a lot of theories.
That's a lot of theories.
That's
Yeah.
a
A
lot.
lot of work.
I mean, he must be
tired
really
thinking about it.
recognized. I mean, how many Nobels did he win? Look, I don't even recognize the name, and I know a lot of younger creationists, so let's look him up. Bill Lucas.
Tell him to come talk to us.
Baseball player? No. Not the same
Where
one.
do we find this guy? You're gonna tell him where to find us,
I don't
right?
recognize the name, and like I said, I know a lot of creationists, so.
Well, he's probably at Harvard. I mean,
Yeah, you'll be. Yeah,
Is
fair.
that who fosters
Yale.
this kind of stuff? Harvard? I thought it was Berkeley.
Just well, okay.
I mean, it's a lot
maybe
of
we'll
work.
be-
I don't know if he has his own university at this
He's
point.
not gonna want to come talk to us.
I don't know who he is. I can't find anything on him.
That's
He
a
doesn't
lot of
exist.
work.
Can you give some details, Stefan? We love talking to those people. You know, I
Yeah.
have young Earth creationist experts in all the time. I mean, in fact, I just arranged. It's tentative, but we've just theoretically arranged Dr. Hugh Ross to talk to Dr. Jason Lyle again. That would be amazing.
Oh, damn. Brian Peck for 5 says, "Please tell me you guys have seen Carson's
have
portrait
not.
of himself and Jesus."
I have not.
I have not.
No.
This must be a recent thing.
Should I
did
find it?
graduate like 10 years ago, but I have never seen it, and I would laugh so hard.
Let's
Yeah,
see if we can
please
find
find
it.
that.
Ben
That
Carson
sounds
and Jesus.
amazing.
Oh, get the fuck out! No, this ain't true. No, this is not a real photo. Is this? No.
I
Seriously?
wouldn't know. I haven't been there in
Well,
years.
this is these. I don't know if this is like.
I'm not a fan of Ben Carson. Didn't keep in touch.
But
so.
I mean, oh no, okay. These are SNLs. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, these are Saturday Night Live photos.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
Uh,
yeah. SNL mocks
Carrie-
Ben Carson.
Mm.
Carrie for 5 says, "If Molus tollens ceased to exist, would it be a net positive? On one hand, a legitimate logical construct would die. On the other hand, no more black swan."
Yeah, I don't know what it'd be like for laws of logic or the principles of logic to just kind of cease. I think they're immutable. I think they're something that exists regardless whether we do or not. But I don't know how it would affect the no black swan fallacy. But is Bill Lucas an actual doctor? I don't know. I can't find anything on him.
I actually gave a spiritual talk at a. It was like. What do I call that? It was kind of like a rally with religious people, like a
Spiritual
unifying.
retreat?
It was like a unity rally with religious folks, and they made a space for atheists. And I gave a talk about water and having the 3 phases of water, why that gives us life, and how we need to become like water and stuff like that. And it was actually pretty good. I was surprised how well it came out off the cuff.
Well, and again, I don't
Water
mind
can
having
be
those types of discussions of why we have life so dependent on water, and if the phase transitions for water weren't at the temperatures where they're at, would life even be possible?
Right. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by those discussions. Those are the metaphysical concepts that I think about all the time. Look, if water didn't have the molecular properties it had, if it didn't freeze at 0 and boil at 100 Celsius, yes, Chelsea, I use your Canadian bullshit scale. Make you
As
happy.
you should.
It's a better scale.
Whatever, I don't want to hear it.
Metric.
But if it didn't have those
Racist.
like for example, racist against Canadians. I don't think that's possible.
Nationalist.
National, that'd be exactly, it'd be nationalism.
I
Oh, no.
stand by
I better check my Twitter.
You're gonna get so blown up. You don't know. Again, you don't know the shit you get yourself into. But
well, you're hanging out with us, so
right. Oh,
you're
you're
kinda
fucked.
screwed anyway.
Yeah. But the water itself, the whole point of the whole principle of water having like these phase transitions and this latent heat of vaporization and latent heat of fusion and all this physics that go into it is amazing because again, without water, we would not exist, period. And without if anything that changed about that, now I'm not trying to run a fine-tuning argument, but it is so impressive. I've got to admit that.
Yeah, it's fascinating for a lot of reasons, but as a biochemistry cell and molecular biology is all water-based. Like, we work with water and carbon-based molecules. Like, it's a very specific thing. And when I was in grad school, we actually had a specific seminar that we had to take on water. I mean, it's like that important.
Yeah, no, I took water chemistry, so I had to understand quite a bit about
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's
when you're running a nuclear power plant and the moderator's water, you kind of have to know a little bit about the properties of water. It helps.
It's kind of just impressive how much research can go into like what we would consider one thing.
Water chemistry is huge, to be honest. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
I mean, people don't understand
hydrogen bonding
how
is
complex
so
it
cool.
is.
I actually just made a video on cannabis cloning that I need to edit and upload, and I'm like, when I handle my mom plants, I spray them down and kind of pet them so that they get more bushy. Because of the water on the leaves, the hydrogen bonding between my wet hand and the water and the leaves, I don't have to like pull on the plant to make more branches.
You just let the bonding do it for you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love hydrogen bonding for that reason.
The hydrogen forces.
So cool. Yes.
Van der Waal. I remember that.
Yes.
Yes.
So cool. So cool.
I did actually learn about this stuff at one time. Years ago. In fact, people don't realize how damaging like things in your cells, because it's mostly water and you get a highly energetic photon, like a UV ray going through your water. It'll disassociate the water molecule into hydronium or hydroxyl, which is a free radical. That causes cancerous things as well. So
I'm going to, on that note, remind me to introduce you to my friend, Dr. Q, at the Deuterium Depletion Center. He works on cancer. And just like you said, he works on the problem. It's more of an ATP kind of mitochondrial problem of deuterium, and deuterium being in the water and things you eat, causing that disruption.
That would be fascinating, because yes, deuterium and trace amounts of tritium, but normally not naturally.
It's mostly
I don't know,
deuterium,
Steve,
according
it's mostly deuterium.
To talk to us. I don't know.
Yeah, but no, I'm fascinated by that stuff, because there's just two major damages due to radiation. There's the disassociation of water, and then the
heavy isotopes.
Yeah, but like the actual DNA damage
not
itself.
heavy,
like
but
if like a pyrimidine dimer, it would be caused by UV radiation, which is obviously is a lesion that can cause cancer, which we have to be concerned about. But the free radicals, man, I think a lot of the prevention of cancer needs to be focused on antioxidant type of stuff.
Yeah, prevention.
Yeah.
But who wants to do that? You don't make money that way.
Yeah, but that's easy stuff, right?
Why
I mean, that's stuff that anybody could do.
Popular.
I take antioxidants. I take omega-3 fatty acids, and
it's a great antioxidant is omega fatty acids, and you know what has a lot of them in it?
Fish.
Cannabis, raw cannabis.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, cannabis. Yeah. I take fish, but yes, I as well.
Antioxidants galore.
Funny how that works out.
Do you think
why is it illegal? I wonder why.
Do you think a lot of Americans just it's not part of their educational system? I don't know if it's in Canada. But I can tell you as an American, we don't get our nutrition courses are bullshit, to be honest with you.
Honestly, the most educated people I've ever been to a country and came in like contact with are in Cuba. I can discuss cell biology with your like waiter in Cuba.
Brits love their education.
Oh man, they're like all kinds of things they're educated on. They're like, didn't you take art history? Like, I did in college, schooling me.
A bachelor's degree in America is about the equivalent of 6th grade over in those other countries. It's like really
incredible. It's worth the ketchup pizza.
Absolutely. That's why I keep saying our whole educational system in America needs revamping. We have the Common Core crap. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
I even talked to my daughter's math teacher way back in the day in early education, and I expressed my concerns with Common Core, and she's like, "Don't worry, I teach both." And I was like, thank you, Jesus.
I don't understand some of the weird math that's going on. There's all kinds of weird ways of teaching math.
Well,
now,
you're
and
just
I'm
a
like, don't we
PhD.
still have
You're not
three
smart enough to
apples?
understand Common Core because nobody is.
Like,
that makes
can
no
we do
sense.
3 apples again? And Mary eats 2 apples, and then how many apples do we have left? Why
What you
was that
have,
not
what
a
you
good
have is
system?
hunger around the world. That's what. That's
Oh,
that's the correct
apples
answer.
ain't free.
Yeah. The correct answer is you should grow your own apples and stop being mass-produced apples that sit on the shelf for a year. That's,
Yeah, you communist.
Common Core is
Well, guys, I'm
weird.
gonna have to go.
Yeah,
I
we're gonna
gotta
bugger out too. This was
run.
awesome.
It was so fun.
I'm gonna
to
get
brainstorm
you
these
I'm gonna get your email to Cheshire, and you guys can correspond and when you guys could maybe want to get together. But yeah, we love these types of hangouts and just impromptu stuff. So anytime you want to join us, just ask for the link, and you got a free pass for anything we do. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. I was just coming in the chat because the discussion was interesting.
Well, I'm glad that
Nobody
you liked
wants
it.
to talk to us.
I had to split these 2 videos because of the slobs issue, which is the Streamlabs. But if you
I
thought
don't
that my
get
first
slobs
argument
yet.
was good, that's good. I like, again, just to get things out there as little grenades to go, hey, look, stop being this group thing. Stop parroting stuff. Think rationally for a change.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a good night, though.
You too, and good that you stopped in. We appreciate it.
I appreciate the invite. Thank you so much.
Absolutely a pleasure.
Come by anytime.
Now that she's gone, let's talk shit. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, yeah, so that was like, she really dominated that with her nonsense. Okay.
These evolutionists. No, I'm thrilled when
God.
people with this kind of experience are able to communicate with people on these topics, because I think, again, most people don't generally have any. I don't want to use the experience. They don't have any exposure to these things, right? So these types of channels and these types of shows give people exposure to things they may not have ever been exposed to before. So
I think it's a matter of just there are people who have a lot of information and don't have the means to communicate it. And YouTube and these sorts of hangouts and shows kind of grants an opportunity to allow for stuff like that.
Totally
for people
agree.
to be able to start having conversations that they wouldn't otherwise be able to have.
couldn't agree more. Okay, so let you guys know, I do have some things coming up. I have the Thinking Dutchman on tomorrow, who is a theist philosopher, who I think he and I have a lot in common that I've asked to come on. And then on Saturday, we have actually Tony Reed, the wonderful, amazing, brilliant Tony Reed, is going to be talking to Finding Truth at 9 a.m. on Saturday Pacific time, which is kind of like what Dap Diner did. Now, again, let me reiterate this for the people in the back. I moderate these discussions, but I also interact with these discussions. I am part of the discussions, and my interlocutors and my guests all know this. So when people say questions like, well, is Steve a moderator, is he a part of the discussion? I am both. I've always has been. That's how this channel has always been. That's how it always will be. But Tony Reed is an amazing guy. I hope Finding Truth has something more to bring to the table than God of the Gaps. But I also got Jackson Week coming up with Finding Truth next month, I believe it is. But anyways, what do you got coming up, Josh?
I've got Capping Corner on Monday. Saturday will be something. I haven't entirely figured out what I want to do. Monday I'm going to be Capping Corner, but I'm also going to be over on Karma Valley's channel. So if you're interested about what's been going on with Marilyn Manson and a little bit about that situation, we're talking about that if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, if they haven't checked out Karma Valley's channel, they should go do that. If you got the link readily available, and put it in the live chat, because we have become huge fans of hers. And she's local. Yeah, she's great. She's local to me. We are going to be doing some Man on the Street stuff. We've got some ideas planned for that.
I like that you say she's local and I'm in Canada.
well, until you get to California, you're not local. So we got to get you to we got to get you to LA, because my daughter wants to go to LA. I want to go to LA. I want to plan a trip. I want to some people up there that I want to go visit. I've already said that we'll have a little get together. What's his name? Scott Clifton wants to go have a scotch.
Oh, nice.
That'd be awesome. Can you imagine us just hanging out with him having scotch, talking about philosophy? Would be bitching, man.
I would probably shit a brick.
Yeah, you'd probably have multiple big O's and just, forever be ruined.
I mean, okay, listen. I really enjoy talking to Scott Clifton because he's not a dick. He's just a straightforward. He's not arrogant. He tries to understand. There isn't there's no ego that gets in the way of the conversation. And what it is he's refreshing.
Yes,
that's what he is. And compared to some of the other people that we have conversations with on a regular basis or have had conversations with in the past, sometimes who somebody is can just get in the way of what you're trying to talk about, and that is just not the case with the way he is.
Well, look at Randall Rouser. He's like the theist version of Scott.
Oh my god, I love talking to Randall.
So fucking great, man.
Listen, I have a bias in particular favorites, and I'm not shy
wrong with
about
that.
Who those are.
Look, so Catholic Traditionist says, please invite Darth Dawkins on one of your future shows. Look, I've never said Darth can't comes on. Darth will avoid this channel like the plague, but he's.
What if he talks to me on this channel?
I've never said Darth can't come on a show, not once. If he can call in anytime he wants. He won't. We can have a special caffeine corner just so Darth can call if he wants. I don't care. Let him run script on Cheshire. She would enjoy it. He's weird like that. Not my thing, but yeah, I don't care. But Darth won't. Darth knows that we know his, or at least I'm well familiar with his shtick. But Cheshire might have fun playing around with him.
I'm not terribly familiar with him, so I mean. I probably wouldn't be terribly familiar with whatever his script he is trying to run if that's what he's trying to do. So he might.
Well, he's a walking contradiction. He literally will argue two different points, right? He'll say one thing one place and then contradict himself somewhere else. So no matter what you say, there's a no win, right? Because if you go one, he has a script, and so if you say one thing, he'll do the opposite. If you say the other thing, he'll do the opposite. So you can't get anywhere with him because it's a completely dishonest presuppositional script where he's arguing two different conflicting things at once. He always does this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And a good example.
It'd be interesting to try my hand. I don't know if I'd want to a formal debate because again, debates just aren't really my thing. But to have a discussion to pick his brain would be interesting. Yeah. Maybe.
Well, he would just try to get you to how do you justify using your reason to reason? How do you justify the laws of logic? How do you justify Hume's problem of induction? And as I've told many people, just suck it up. So you can't. Big deal. Move on. Whatever.
Yeah, but so what? Okay, what?
I don't know.
What is I would ask him what his problem is with it. What is
because you need God.
Is the problem? Is it that you need God?
Yes, God has to exist because the laws of logic are immutable. They're all for all times and all places and all space and time. Therefore, they are conceptual, and conceptual things only exist in the mind. The only thing that's mind that exists for eternity is God.
Yeah, so I would immediately just go.
Bite it, atheist. Bite it.
Special pleading.
Well, it's not special pleading. Special pleading is when you
it becomes the consequence, right? Because you go, okay, well, how do you know it's the God that you're proposing?
Well, at that point, that particular argument just poses a mind. It doesn't necessarily is God, but he'll argue that there has to be a mind because these things are concepts, and concepts have to exist for all times and all places. Therefore, the only thing that does that is a mind. And by the way, the phone number changes each show, so we have we have paid Google Meets through Paul, one of my web guys. So the number changes every week. So whenever the number's out, he's more than welcome to call.
It sounds like it's self-defeating to me if you have something that is this exists in all times and all places. It's like. How? Well, how do you even get to that?
Look, I got to tell you, Darth is good at what he does. He's a complete bullshit artist. He's a master at skill. He's been doing this for well over a decade that I've known him. So he is really good at it. But it's just smoke and mirrors. It's just bullshit.
So my bullshit detector going off is correct to be going off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's dishonest. Look, if I argue that A doesn't equal A, then anything can happen. It's called the principle of explosion. So he has so many contradictions that you can't win because you're dealing with somebody who has a completely contradictory system. So you can't win because.
So what does he value in the conversation that he's trying to have then?
I think he does it for his ego. If I really had to like put it out there, I think he loves. See, I like getting people to think.
He's like,
educating.
I'm 14 and I'm very smart. Is that?
Dude, he actually went into a Minecraft server of like there was I think a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old, something like that, trying to explain to them presuppositionalism while they're playing Minecraft. That's how bad he is. That he wanted attention because all the Discord servers at the time were kind of pushing him to the side. So he was just finding servers. He went to a Minecraft server where these poor kids were playing, and these kids were going, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And one of them goes, "Man," he said something like, "Quote, go eat raw spaghetti." That's a kid's quote. Go eat raw spaghetti. I don't know where he came up with it from, but there's a video on it somewhere. It's to die for. Go eat raw spaghetti. To be fair,
that sounds gross. That sounds like it would be disgusting, and I wouldn't want to eat it.
I wouldn't either. That's probably why you said it's an insult.
Kudos to that kid.
But who goes around to Minecraft fucking servers to talk about presuppositional and God? These kids are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Yeah,
that's absurd. Don't force conversation on people who don't want to have it.
I'm not exaggerating. People, does anybody in the live chat remember this? Is anybody, somebody, one person remember it?
This sounds ridiculous.
It did happen. It did happen. So, but yeah, okay.
Hey, Tangelo, I got a question for you about something that happened on a stream of yours about you trying to basically out somebody about something that wasn't you couldn't even justify about their religious stance, and I want to know what your justification would be if had you been correct about whatever their religious stance was, why you feel it's justifiable to out somebody else's
gauntlet thrown
stuff, because that's not cool.
Let's wait for a response on this. This might be interesting.
That's some dangerous shit. So I want to know how you justify that, like if you were correct, why you think it was an okay thing to do anyway.
You know, in Arab countries, that can get you killed.
Yep.
In fact, that's one of the few things
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that's one of the few things that I do stand by. Some groups like the Atheists International Alliance, that they try to, they do promote humanism in some ways that where, it's these countries that have atheism as worthy of the death penalty. That shit needs to change. I am all for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a problem with religion, not a problem with the existence of God.
I agree. So let's see what Tangelo says.
That's what we were talking about with Dr. Randall. Mm-hmm. We're talking about separating those that argumentation, that those two concepts, and understanding that those are two different conversations, and recognizing that.
Well, let me ask you: if you had a religion that this religion believes, in giving to the poor, having charities, doesn't ask for anything in return, just helps people, has support for when needed. That's all they do. I mean, like a Red Cross kind of thing or whatever. But it's a religion. But they don't judge. They don't give a shit what sexuality you are. They don't care who you marry. They don't care about politics. They're just there to help people. Do you really think that people would give a shit about that kind of group? No, I don't think that they would.
I think there are. I think that's what internet atheism has turned into. They just straight up go around and basically accost people online about their belief in a god or not a god, so they can talk about how smart they feel after having the conversation.
Well, they've become the antithesis of that kind of group, religious group I'm talking about. I mean, the religious group I'm talking about is one that just is inert, and nobody cares about that. They care about the ones that harm society. And you're right, though. The internet atheist, the new atheist TM, that group does exactly what you just said. And I think that they have become harmful to society.
Yeah, I think there is a time and place and a discuss. I think you can have the discussion about whether or not your God exists. It just doesn't need to be as toxic of a discussion as it's turned into when because again, the issue that a lot of the old school atheism, when it first started with like Dawkins and when they were doing all the talks and stuff like that time period, they weren't so much discussing whether or not God is real. They would say they didn't believe, or they would say no, but they were trying to basically decriminalize and get atheism a little bit more on the same page normative. To be like, listen, we don't worship Satan, but also on top of it, there's problems with religion, and then in those conversations those two things kind of got mushed together, and when they did, I think it's caused a lot of unnecessary harm.
I agree. Real quick, Jeff has said Cheshire Darth has stated numerous times that his goal is to humiliate atheists, not to convince anyone of his God. He's not interested in honest dialogue. Absolutely the case. I know this all too well.
That just sounds like he's a dick then.
Yeah, he's not interested in honest dialogue. He is there. He follows what's called the Greg Bahnsen approach to presuppositionalism, and Greg Bahnsen has said his presuppositionalism is, quote, to shut the mouth of the non-believer. That's it. It wasn't like an Van Til Van Til came from a little different approach. But Greg Bahnsen's approach to presuppositionalism was basically, hey,
that's not
we're going to make
very, it
atheists
doesn't
look
sound
stupid.
very what religion are they? Are they Christians?
They're fundamentalist Christians. Yeah, presuppositional apologetics.
That doesn't sound very conducive to what the Bible says, but hey, what would I know? I'm just a dirty atheist.
Are you saying they have hypocrisy? Stop that crazy talk.
Maybe I'm saying that their God and Jesus probably wouldn't be too impressed with their behavior.
Jamie says, I have came across you talking about the Oklo mine, which was a natural fission reactor that happened billions of years ago, some 4 years ago, and I have issues about what you said about radio halos. That's fine. But everything I've said about radio halos, you basically can go look. I mean, it's not like I said anything outlandish about radio halos during my presentation, but I've looked at Gendry's work pretty well. I've also, talked to Dr. Lachelt and Dr. Hankey on helium diffusion rates and things of that nature. And yeah, Young Earth Creationism will look at anything to try to find anything to kind of hold their beliefs. But the fact remains, Gentry himself said he had to invoke what's called singularities, which are one-time events where God intervened, which took it right out of the realm of science. As soon as he capitulated and said, yes, these other explanatory things for the natural explanations of why we see halos does account for it, but I'm just going to posit some deity that did it by some kind of magical thing or mystical thing or whatever. It's no longer science. So even Gentry had basically said, yes, this whole halo thing was bullshit, because we can explain it using physics. We didn't need a God, but he still tried to invoke God by saying God did it by these singularities, which are one-time miracle events. So I have looked into this subject.
Tangelo says he doesn't know what I'm talking about, so I was trying to be nice, but I'll be explicit. You tried to expose someone, it was Dapper Dino, and tried to basically out what religion Dapper may or may not be. How do you justify that as being something that was okay to do?
That's a good
question. Even if you were correct.
Because I don't even know Dapper's actual positions, nor do I care, and I've never asked him. Godless Scholar for £5 says, you can always get grumpy old dude on with Darth's avatar. Nobody would know the difference. See last week's six-pack for context. I will do that. If you guys haven't checked out the Atheist six-pack on Atheist Pastor's channel, go check it out. It's really good. I've been on his show a few times, and of course he does over and under with me, but he's been really, really busy. But I know he wants to start doing them again, but I have to do it on his schedule, obviously. So we'll do an over and under when he's available. But yeah, no, I don't doubt that. Grumpy old dude could probably play Star's avatar. It would be fine. I don't doubt that at all. Got a scummer.
That would be funny. I like him. I've interacted with him a little bit on Twitter. He seems like a super cool guy.
Yeah, grumpy old dude is pretty cool. Yes. Yes, Jamie, I'm well familiar with what he thought. He thought there were evidence of instant creation of granite and biotite, the halides of plutonium-210, 214, and 218, which, again, we've established by using science that these poloniums can form outside of their parent halos because of a migration of radon gas diffusion through the rocks and through the biotite, through microfissures. I did a huge presentation on this very subject. Yeah, well, Jamie, you're allowed to disagree, but the science just doesn't support anything other than what I had in my presentation. Did he answer? Did Antalo answer?
Well, he said he didn't know what I was talking about, so I was very explicit.
You were very explicit, yes. I'm wondering if he he answer this so we can get going on this, because I am hungry.
I mean, he can always come back and answer next time. I'm not in a hurry.
Mike asks, hey, yeah, that's a question. Do the presuppers that lean hard on the, quote, uniformity of nature believe in miracles that defy the uniformity of nature? Yes, they do, and that's what they call them miracles, because they defy the uniformity of nature. But the problem with that is, if you accept, and I'll put on an atheist hat for a second, if you accept that a deity exists that can prescriptively change the laws of the universe, a being that can change nature, then you have no more uniform nature, because that being could change it at will, and you never know what his will is going to be.
Yep.
You have to not only assume the uniform nature, but you also add an additional assumption, which is against the law. Well, it's not against the law of parsimony, but it definitely seems to be the case that you don't want additional assumptions if you don't need to. But you have to add the additional assumption that if God exists and he has the ability to do so, that he's not going to do that. You know?
You run into also, is it not problematic, now correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but is it not problematic if you're running into, you have a God that can change existence and the world at will, and is going to or planning to do so or has done so in the past? One, how would you ever be able to even know that that would be the case? And two, a God that exists, that is posited to exist in all possible worlds, can't, like, basically just can't?
Yeah, well, that's what my point exactly would be. And Saitan Bunike would say, well, God's not going to change the laws of the physics except when he does a miracle kind of thing. It was like, well, that's when he does. But now you're missing the point, Saitan, because if he's going to break the rules for a miracle, you don't know when he could violate them. So yeah, you would have no predictability. You have to assume that God's just not going to start fucking with people and changing gravity or constants around.
I mean, the Bible is not really a very good example of God not fucking with people, to be fair.
He has a history of that. So I guess if you really wanted to mess with people, he could just say, I'm going to change the gravitational constant and just, have some fun. That would be interesting. And I don't think you got a response.
I'm not seeing Tangelo come back with any kind of justification as to, even if he were correct or even if he was incorrect, what the justification was to make that okay.
Seems like he's very quiet on that. I think we gave him enough time to respond, don't you?
I thought so.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, then I guess we'll wrap it up, and we can ask him again later. He comes around every so often.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it
possible
that I misunderstood what he said? I apologize to him. Why is that your concern? My concern isn't about whether or not you're correct. I kind of figured you would do that. Yeah, no, I didn't say whether or not... I already dismissed whether or not it was correct or whether or not you were right or whether or not you misheard him or not. I'm asking, even if you were correct, why do you think... What is your justification for exposing someone? I see you already trying to sidestep it.
Yeah, in other words, no matter what his positions are, because I honestly, I don't know his actual religion or non-religion or anything about his personal beliefs when it comes out. We've never had that discussion. But if I knew about it, I would see no reason to make that public.
Why would it ever be okay to expose somebody? Like, what, or at least what was your justification for exposing his beliefs, whether you were correct or not, is irrelevant.
Yeah, I'm curious too, because
on your own, without his consent, or even without him being there.
When I tell people Cheshire is an atheist,
what world?
She's made that very clear. I mean, I'm not exposing her on that.
Yeah.
Sarah had asked,
what was your thought process at the time? How did you justify that was a good idea in your brain?
Sarah asked a good question. She says, do you think that the Oklo reaction is evidence of uniformitarianism? Yeah. I mean, it's a natural reactor that, has been going on for billions of years, that we have to account for the radiological heat. And so the only way that do that is that it has been going on for billions of years. I think when it first go critical, like 1.5 billion years ago or something like that. I'm not looking it up. I'm honestly not, but somebody can look it up. But it's a natural reactor. Physics is a thing, Stefan Lyxian for $5 Canadian. Charles William Lucas, check his book. He replaced modern physics theories, which even atheists accept. So it's not just
I
Bill
think he's
Lucas.
back talking about the guy
Yeah,
he
Bill
said
Lucas.
that went against all theories. Well, was it just physics?
I'm looking.
What was it?
Because I didn't recognize the name Bill Lucas. Maybe this guy. Science Woke, Charles William Lucas. Okay, that does come up. Natural Philosophy Wiki. Okay, as soon as I see Natural Philosophy Wiki. Okay, so is an American physicist, author, and inventor who's best known for unifying the four forces of physics with his universal force equation, unifying a more perfect union of the axiomatic and empirical scientific methods. Lucas was ousted from mainstream physics after his criticism of Einstein's theory and has continued his own work on the unifying of forces through organizations such as Common Sense Science, Natural Philosophy Alliance, and John Chappell's Natural Philosophy of Science. He does structural particle physics. I have never heard of him, so I will have to look into some of his stuff and see what we got.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of the guy. See, unlike other channels, when we don't know something, we learn, we look into. So I'll definitely look into that guy and get some information about him. Sound good?
I am curious if he undid all of science, which is what you said before, or now if it was just physics, because that's a huge step back in the original claim. Well, it's just a step back in the claim, so I'm not trying to pick on him, I'm just trying to be clear, is it all science theories that he undid, or is it physics?
Well, there's nothing wrong with having theories that are
I did
with
respond.
Einstein.
That doesn't answer the question, Otangelo.
Just to be clear, though, there are theories out there that compete with Einstein's theories. I mean, there's loop quantum gravity that's supposed to be something that can at least incorporate. There's something called modified Einstein's theories. So who knows? So I'll check out his stuff. Stefan, sound good? I have it bookmarked. I have it pinned.
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like learning new things. Learning things is good.
I certainly don't have a problem with it.
All right. So you get a response from? He said I did respond. Jamie Russell, $5. Dr. James Carter, know him? Dr. James Carter. I have to look. Who is this? It doesn't come up with anything. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know who that would be either. I'm so bad at names.
It's not going to be a long stream. Since when is it a problem to say if someone is an atheist of something else? When you live in a country where they kill you if you're an atheist.
Yeah,
it's not
that could
about
be dangerous.
it's not about the belief, dumbass. It's about you're exposing or you're putting out somebody else's information when you don't know anything about them. That can be harmful and dangerous.
Yeah.
So what is your justification? Are you justifying that with ignorance?
It's out. I mean, can you imagine if you're in one of those countries and you out them as being gay or something like that, where they stone them to death? That would get them killed.
Yes.
Same thing. Only religion, they do the same thing. In certain countries, atheism is illegal.
And in some countries, people who have families who are very religious, who watch their channels. And then somebody else exposes them or just puts out there that what their religious position is, and it's not the one they thought it was. You could put that family at huge, you fuck with their whole personal life. So again, what is your justification for doing so? Are you claiming ignorance that there's it's not a big deal to say that somebody's an atheist or not when you have no idea what their personal life is?
Yeah, I agree.
Because I'm going to call bullshit on claiming ignorance. That's not acceptable. That's not an acceptable response or answer. Not in this time and place and years of technology and when you have these kinds of a conversation.
All right. Well, we definitely got to wrap this up. This has gone way too long. So maybe you and Otangelo can have he does drop into Hangouts. So if you ever want him to come on and talk to him.
Yeah, he's more than welcome to answer later. He can sit down and ruminate and maybe sit in the corner and think about what he's done.
I love that
Seems
word.
like that probably needs to happen since he's not addressing it.
Say that again. That's a great word, ruminate. I love that word. I don't know why. Certain words I just like.
think about what you've done?
No, ruminate. I love that word. It's just it has
Ruminate.
this so much that it connotes. But anyways, all right,
Why
guys.
don't you sit down and ruminate whilst I illuminate?
You need to think about this, young man.
No, ignorance. There's ignorance when it comes to like to not know about something, but to try and claim ignorance on something as well known as you don't out people when you don't know, like you just don't out other
Right.
people. That's not on you. That's not up to you. I didn't think about it. Maybe you should. Maybe you should think about something like that, because that just makes you a dick.
Well, maybe he's willing to recognize that that was probably not the best move and go forward, not do it again. That's a learning experience.
I look forward to hearing about your glowing and groveling apology towards him. Because you seem to have apologized for the wrong thing, or only half of the thing. And you're welcome for helping you out with making you aware of that problem.
Yeah. Stefan again for 5 Canadian says just physics. Okay, just physics.
Okay.
But all right, so I do have his Stefan. I have this thing pinned. Charles William Lucas. I have searched for him. He seems to be a some kind of structural physics person, a high energy physicist. But like I said, I don't know anything about him specifically. But I will definitely look into that, some of his theories. And look, there might be some really good theories out there against Einstein's equations and stuff like that. I'm not saying otherwise. But it's one of those things is, what is the consensus as far as, do we modify Einstein's equations, which one theory suggests we do, or we try to incorporate it with loop quantum gravity? We don't know. We don't know which one's the best route to do, but we do recognize that no theory is complete. We recognize no theory is perfect. And we're always going to find things that seem to not conform to those theories. And this is why I'm against falsificationism as a whole, because there's always an escape hatch you can have. So, Stefan for 5 more says, thank you for the honesty. Of course, that's how we roll here, man. Yeah, we don't just shut shit down. Look, I'd be a hypocrite if I said I don't know fuck all about this, but he's wrong, because that's what I get. So, people say that about me, right? All right, so you wrapped it up with Tangelo?
Oh yeah, he asked why I called him a dumbass, and so I said because his negligence is offensive. And he says, I don't care what you consider acceptable or not. I did apologize. What's your problem? You apologize for the wrong thing. For all you know, you put him in danger and put his life at danger, and you should be apologizing for that, not for misunderstanding.
Yeah,
that's a way bigger deal. You've completely missed your mark. That's why. And you're welcome for helping you out with that.
Yeah, those are definitely two different things. Now you're aware.
And now if it happens again or you do it to somebody else, you cannot claim ignorance.
All right, well, at least it's on record now. All right, guys, we've been at this for way too long. My ass hurts. So thanks, Jess, and thanks for watching this, guys. And we'll see you guys over the weekend. Bye.
See you later.